Hello, welcome to the Random Hooker YouTube channel. Kate, your host for the channel. So my theory with this channel is to share with you guys what I'm working on, tips, advice, random crochet stuff. Because on my crochet journey, one of the things that I would like to have is somebody sat there crocheting along and doing their own thing, sort of with body doubling, and would give somebody that would give advice and things like that. Because there are hundreds of fabulous crocheters out there that have channels, and their work is absolutely beautiful and it is absolutely perfect. And I've used a lot of the videos to learn how to do new techniques, but it can be quite daunting having somebody that is good at it, and yours doesn't. My work doesn't always turn out as amazing as theirs, and that's okay too. I happen to be a fan of the homemade look, so it doesn't always have to be perfect. I enjoy crochet for making crochet. It's something that's very good for my mental health. So I'd like to see other people that aren't necessarily perfect at crochet. I do my best, and I enjoy it, and I want to spread that joy with other people. So that's why I thought I'd start the channel. And like I said, I'm going to sit here with you guys and work on work on my current works in progress. Share with you any tools that I've enjoyed using, or I found really good. Especially if you're just starting out with crochet, it can be very daunting, and you have lots of people telling you all these things that they prefer to use, and they prefer ways of doing it and things like that. If you have any questions, if you have any tips that you'd like me to share, if you'd like me to look at something, if you're a bit concerned about trying it yourself, then please leave comments, send messages. I'm on YouTube as well. I'm on Instagram as well, at the Random Hooker. Same on both platforms. So send me a DM if there's something that you'd like me to try, if there's patterns that you're struggling with, if there's a wool that you would like to try and use but you're a bit worried. Send me a message. I can't promise that I'll know how to do it, but I'll give it a go, and you can watch me make mistakes. You can watch me have a go, and we can learn together. Which for me is again one of the things that I'd love to see is somebody else going through the same struggles with a particular type of wool or a particular technique, because it can be very disheartening when you see this beautiful creation that somebody's made, and their instructions are clear and they're perfect, and there's nothing wrong with the instructions. Your brain's just not quite got it yet. And for me personally, that can be really disheartening, because it's like, well, why aren't I getting it? It's like, I'm not the only one. There are other people that struggle with certain patterns, certain styles, different wools and things like that. So I just wanted to be a safe space for people to come and practice, to have a play, to learn different skills, or if nothing else, just for the body doubling, to sit and hear, listen to somebody rambling on for a while you do a bit of crochet, because, you know, as I said, I'm a fan of the crochet. I'm a fan of listening to things while I'm doing it. Yeah, so there's going to be general chatter, general what I'm up to, what I'm doing, what I'm planning to do, and that sort of thing. So I thought I'd start with I thought I'd start today with some of the things that I use, that I like to use, that I find easy, and sort of help me do my crochet. So I have my magic bag of the everything. I have now, these are my needles. There's different sizes, thicknesses. They are designed for yarn, so they have the nice thick wool, holes for the wool. They do take most yarn thicknesses. I can usually jam it in there, but obviously the thicker the wool, the harder it can be to get in there. And it's always useful when you can get them in the little container. I got this one off Temu. It was cheap, and they do what I need them to do. I've got the obligatory stitch markers. They are all over the house, because that's what we do with our stitch markers. They are everywhere. I don't use them often. It tends to be when I'm just trying a different pattern, and that sort of thing, so that I'm and then play and adjust later, because I know what it's supposed to turn out like, so I can then adjust it to how I crochet. Now, one of the other things that I have in my little bag of tricks is crochet hooks. They come in many shapes, sizes, colours, materials. It just depends what you find comfortable. Now, as somebody that gets achy hands when I crochet, there are differences to all of them, and sometimes you want a different type of needle for a different type or thickness of wool, and it again can depend what you're doing with it. So I've got this lovely one, that's a pony, I believe. This is an 8 mil, an 8 mil needle. Yeah, that's an 8 mil. It's got a it's a plastic needle. I'm not a huge fan of plasticky needles, just because it's thicker wool. It's sometimes harder to work with, but there are some that work better with a plastic needle. So you've then got the standard metal hooks. These are great, and if you're quite comfortable with them, if you're doing a smaller thing, they're great. I just find I get quite achy with them if I'm using them for too long. You've then got these two. They're very similar. These came with some kits. These are a lot better. They've got little sort of dips in them, which are really quite comfortable. And like if you're doing smaller work, I quite like these. Because if it's smaller, it's easier to grip, and I find I don't get as much hand strain with them. And that's the same again. It's just a slightly different. This one's got a slightly more rubbery feel to it. You can also get flat ones, so they're just sort of flat. Again, they've got a slight divot at the end. They're good. They're not my favourite, but they are quite good. They work in a pinch for me. Then you've got the just chunky bit on the end. This style is by far my favourite. You've got the little divot here, and I find when I'm holding it, the grippy bit's in the right place for me in how I hold the needle. That is another way to, which would depend on what type of needles you work best with, is sort of how you hold it and how you crochet. That does matter. It can matter quite a bit, sort of what type you get. So you can get hooks in a lot of different places. I know the work sell them, the range. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them in yarn shops, Hobbycraft, Amazon. Did I say Amazon? You can get them at Amazon. You can also get them on Temu. With Temu, as ever, just be careful and make sure you read the description of what you're actually buying, so that you're not getting like one hook for like £12 or something. There are horror stories, but if you make sure you're reading the descriptions, then you're usually fine. So yeah, you can get them in all sorts of places. You can get them cheaper. I do recommend Temu when you're looking at different styles, because they are cheaper, and you can get some really fun colours. And it is a really good way of picking up a lot of different styles and multiple hooks, for to try out. And as I said, it can depend on the size of yarn, as to what style you'd want to use. The next thing I'll show you is this. I've hooked it up and attached it to my little tray thing that I've got my laptop on. So this is a yarn winder. Again, they come in many shapes and sizes, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. You would get your skein or ball, and it turns it into a very nice yarn cake. So all you do with it, it's ever so simple, is you would find the end of the ball, which sometimes can be the hardest part, just because it is. Haha! And then you would thread it through this metal bit here. Yeah, just so a lot of these attach to the table. And I thought I'd show you quickly, just because when you get them, you can look at them and think, what on earth is that, and how does it work? I found it quite self-explanatory, but that's because I knew what I was buying. And then all you do is literally turn the handle, and it spins quite delightfully. I'm very sorry, it makes the thing shake. Quite delightfully. And it then turns it into this delightful cake shape. Which is great for the last bit of equipment that I've or last crochet. Well, sort of yarn specific. Is this lovely? It's a sort of ball holder thing. So with these, the cakes fit in them lovely. So any cake you've got, and it literally just sits in, and then you wind it round the cutout, and it just sits there, quite happy. And then as you crochet, it stops it rolling around the floor or picking up dirt or disappearing under a sofa or something like that. I quite enjoy using them. It makes life easier. I do have a couple of them. So this is my other one. This one's ceramic, and this works well with larger balls, or if you're using multiple balls, I find it's always a good idea to have 2 or 3, because I do sometimes work with multiple balls on one at a time. I'll double up or triple up what I'm using. So that's quite good. And then sort of the last thing is a pair of scissors. So this is probably as big as I'd go, but you can get some specific knitting, crochet, embroidery scissors. They're about that big, and the actual blade's about that big. They're fabulous. I have a tendency to put them down. About 3 pairs. I know where at least one of them is at any one time. Just because they disappear, they fall down the side of something, down the back of the sofa. I should be a bit better at putting them in my little bag of tricks, but that doesn't always happen. Yeah, so that's the little what I like to use bit. So I also thought I'd show you quickly what I'm currently working on. So at the moment, I'm working on a Hexicardi. They're fun. I love them. They're so easy, and or I find it easy to make. It is just a granny square, but with extra sides. So if you can do a granny square, once you get the how to sort of add the extra corners and the extra sides, if you can do a granny square, you can make a Hexicardi. So you've got your granny square that is obviously square, like so, and then on a Hexicardi, you add a couple of extra stitches, which then makes it this lovely shape. So when you've got it to the size that you want, it then makes this lovely L shape, which is fantastic. And it just makes it a really easy minimal stitch, minimal sew garment. And they're really customizable. As somebody that's quite short and quite round, I've got short little arms, so I love the Hexicardis. I love the style of them, but I don't need to be as long as the middle does to go round me. So the great thing I find with Hexicardis and other Hexi wear is you can stop on the side that would create the arms, so that once they're as round as you need and as long as you want, you can stop stitching those sides and then just carry on with the adding the width that you need around the middle. So if you wanted it cropped but you've got longer arms, you can do the same thing but the other way around. So you stop with the length and just add sort of width and arms, and then you can have a crop. It's a really good thing. So just quickly, the yarn I'm currently using at the moment is by King Cole, and it's called Flare Chunky. There you go. And this particular shade is Dye-Lot 867. This is the one that I'm using at the moment, the hook I'm using at the moment. It's great. I love it. Again, it's comfortable to use. And I just it stops my hands getting quite so tired. Yeah, so that's what I'm making at the moment. So I use just a simple crochet. I can never remember if that's the American term for it, because I get confused with the different terms. So if like me, you've been taught a term, always check when you're reading a pattern. Is it will often say it's if it doesn't say anything, check where the pattern comes from. Most of the time I find if it's a US pattern, it will say US terms. It is important to check that sometimes because the American terms and the English terms are slightly different for the different stitches. So sometimes it won't turn out right or turn out how you're expecting because you're using a different stitch, and sometimes it needs the stitch that it says. Sometimes you can get away with it. So my lovely little pumpkins that I've got behind me here, I did a different stitch than what it was telling me to use because I mixed up my terms. So I mixed up my terms, but it still looks good. And that's now how I make them. But it is easily done. So always check that. And there are lots of videos out there that explain the different terms and will show you what they mean when they say it. say a thing. So yeah, it's just for this pattern, it's just a simple three cluster. And then I like to do a single chain, and then go into the next one. I find it makes it a bit tighter. But again, it would depend the finish that you want. I wouldn't necessarily do more than 2 chains unless it's quite a chunky, unless it's quite a small yarn. If it's quite a thin yarn and you're using sort of anything below, I would probably say. Then sometimes because the yarn is thin and the hook you're using is so small, sometimes you need the extra one or two chains between, just so that it doesn't pull and sort of distort the pattern that you're doing. But yeah, I this is something that I can sit and do for hours, and I quite like that you can put it down and then pick it up again, and you usually know where you are, and even making other things. So if you're following a pattern, it's quite often easier to work out where you are and what you're doing. So long as you finish a round, and make a note of the round that you're on. You don't often switch stitches, but sort of across rows. It tends to be sort of either in the row, or it's quite clearly defined when you would do that, so you can put it down at the end of a row, and walk away and leave it for 3 weeks and then come back to it, and you can work out fairly easily where you are. So this is something that I made yesterday. It's a sea turtle. So I've got safety eyes. They're lovely and glittery. So this is currently one of my other favourite things to make. So I made some for the nephew for his birthday because he requested a sea turtle toy. So I made him a little family of these. This one I've added in some glow in the dark wool because I thought I'd see how well it would work. And it works quite well. Kind of regret not having added it to the nephew's turtles. So yeah, that's what I'm currently doing at the moment. So yeah, I think I might leave it there, because I don't want to chew your ear off too much on the first video. And I've probably given you a lot of information at once. So again, if you've got any questions, if you've got any ideas, if there's anything you want me to try, please send me a message, add a comment onto the video. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to talk about. This channel is as much for you guys as it is for me. So if you want me to look into the history of crochet, or the history of making yarns and wools and the different types, anything like that, let me know. If there's any patterns you wanted me to try or anything like that. Just so we can all have a go together, then that's cool. I will give anything a go. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.